Gadadhara, adoration, embracing Bhava Gaura-Gadadhara Pakshacharam, to become lovers of Gadadhara. Radha, maybe we were discussing at the breakfast a little verse from Gita where Krishna is saying, what we do here is very interesting. Yesham tvanta gatha papam. Oh, a soul loses orientation from the past. It's not looking, always taking the orientation what was. Chananam punya karmanam. And this understanding, that moment that is here, that we can hear about Gadadhara, that we can put our mind, this moment is grown after many, many lifetimes of preparation. We have in one of the verses of the Prasadam prayers, it also says, after many, many lifetimes, aneka sukrita iha hanaje samprapti. It's like if you work very long time in a company, but you'd never get payment. And after 20 years is the day where you get payment for all the 20 years. It's like a special day. So if you take 1 grain of rice or sabchi, one little piece of prasad, and puts on one tongue, Mahaprabhu is saying, I'm taking the gift of many, many lifetimes of longing. It's quite interesting in a meditation for taking prasadam. You know, every day we have this day after 20 years working, the payment day. But we know many, many lifetimes of longing by putting one piece of prasadam on one's tongue. This is what Krishna is saying in the Gita. When the moment is coming to hear about Gadadhara, Jananam Punya Karmanam, many lifetimes of preparation brought us to this moment. So it's like, oh, that's a special moment. And then Krishna says, very interesting, Dvandva moha nirmukta. And one is like really embracing this kind of kata. A very interesting thing happened. Dvandva moha. A very big delusion is falling away. Dvandva moha. The orientation on material duality. This means at that moment, it doesn't matter anymore if we are sick or healthy in the body. It doesn't matter at all if we live or die. We sing this, Radha Krishna Pranamo. Jivane Marane Gati Arenayam. Doesn't matter. This duality, it doesn't matter if I win everything of this world or lose everything at that moment. Can you imagine what place of freedom this is? And Krishna is speaking many times about this in Gita. The orientation on old value systems completely collapses. And what happens then? Bhajante mam dridhavrata. At that point, the soul can do bhajan with full determination. And this is needed if they want to be a change in the consciousness. It cannot be just a little partial listening and still swimming in unlimited thoughts of the mind. Srila Rupa Goswami, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he says there's a main practice or a main invitation when we hear Harikatha. It's called Sadharanikaran. Sadharanikaran doesn't mean we just listen, but it means diving in reality, diving in reality. And Goswami gives many interesting examples for this, but one is when our Gauranga on the on his travel through South India, like this is his preparation travel to meet Gadadhara, to sit with Gadadhara in Puri. So he had to make some preparation. But that's traveling through South India, his inner preparation for the deep meeting of Gadadhara. So he came to Sri Rangam and it was rainy season, and the sadhus, they cannot walk anymore in the rainy season because all the trails are full of mud. So they had to stay. And Mahaprabhu stayed in Sri Rangam for 4 months in the house of Yenkadabhatta. And he went every day to the temple of Sri Rangam, Ranganathji. And there, it's written in Chaitanya Charitamrita, at the entrance of this temple, there's a very beautiful sadhu sitting, reading Ramayana. The Mahaprabhu was very happy just to see him reading Ramayana, and he goes, take darshan, he goes out, but this Baba is always reading. And then after a few days, Mahaprabhu is like asking him, hey Baba, you take prasad? It's very beautiful. The person who comes to give the intensity of the holy name, he's not just, yeah, go on reading. He says, you want to take the prasad? I never see you take prasad. And this sadhu is like looking up from the book, completely, otherworldliness. And he says, yes. Lakshman collected some fruits and roots. Sita is cooking. He went back. Mahaprabhu was very blissful, very ecstatic. And then next day he goes to the temple, this sadhu is reading. And many days. And after some days he says, Baba, prasad. I never see you take prasad. And this sadhu is like going up and said, now his eyes are completely red, full of tears, coming out. Mahaprabhu is looking at him. You should take some prasad. And this sadhu is saying, how can you speak about such things? Sita was kidnapped by Ravana, such a drama, and you can speak about eating. Mahaprabhu was just... Can we understand? This is called Sadharanikaran. Mahaprabhu was so happy. Here is a person, he is not hearing and reading katha, he's experiencing reality. Completely dive in. And this is the invitation whenever we approach reality. And this Sadharanikaran, it's a reality to absorb in. And that's why Krishna says like the preparation for that in this Gita verse. Oh soul, for that you have to cut the connection with your own past, with your conditioned being. Jananam punya karmanam, you know how many lifetimes of preparation you had to embrace such a gift now. Te dvandva moha nirmukta. Now you come out. of the complete delusion of the orientation of external duality. Bhajante mandridhavrata. And by that, your consciousness is like concentrated, nicht mehr so verstreut. Now you can start to bhajan with tridhavrata. And tridhavrata is like, it's the precondition. Complete determination is the condition that something is really changing in our being. Otherwise, we stay the same person. So we are very thankful that we have the invitation for not worshipping, glorifying, and adoring Gadadhara with you, an old friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Gadadhara ki jai. Thank you, Krishna Chandra, for bringing up that beautiful meditation and the concept of sadharani karana, which is sometimes not so. We may be not that familiar with the implications of how. It was the word that came to my mind with sadharani karana is like participatory.
Yes.
No, like it's participatory. No, like bhakti is inviting for deep involvement and participation. So we, as you were saying, we come here. It's not like, okay, one opens the mouth, Swami is speaking, and Krishna are sitting passively listening. It's mutual participation. Even externally, we may not be opening the mouth or moving, but we try to make an act of presence, bring as much presence as we can, as much participation. So, and that's how we eventually end up participating in the lila, in the eternal realities, gradual acts, voluntary acts of efforts, even to participate more deeply, to be more present, and to feel a part of, rather than to feel apart from. Because that's our main disease. We feel apart from. We feel fractured, disconnected, not belonging. So what can we do to feel a part of, not apart from? So to increase our belongingness through participatory listening, participatory speaking, participatory everything. As you said, even honoring a grain of rice should be deeply participatory. So I really appreciate how Krishna Chandra always tries to preface any of these morning meetings or any meeting, like trying to just bring awareness. Hey guys, don't forget we are here doing something extraordinary by grace. It's not just don't enter into the autopilot loop. Okay, morning class. Okay, lunch. Then evening class. Then breakfast. And kirtan in between. I'm talking to some of these guys as well in between, probably. Another day, checking the box. No. There has to be some transformation. Every new day comes with an invitation for a new transformation, but for that we have to show up and participate. And again, Gadadhara Paṇḍit is such a great embodiment of that for us, like Nishtadeva of of showing up and participating in whatever is required and being willing to transform and adapt and adjust to allow for the necessary transformation happening in the heart of his beloved. So that's also a beautiful thing when you allow yourself to do the inner work that brings your own transformation, that becomes transforming for others. When you are deeply participating in life, whomever enters in touch with you feels invited to participate also. So it becomes contagious. It's naturally attractive, like one Buddhist teacher will say, when the lotus is blooming, you don't need to call the bumblebee, right? So if you become a blooming lotus, blooming with participation. Here we are back. Remind me what was the last thing I was saying. Brahman, thank you. Absolutely. Punished it. So Athato Brahman Jignasa, right? That's what we're trying to do here. We are framing it Upanishadically, but we're trying to inquire about Brahman. And Brahman means, the definition of Brahman comes from the root Brim, which means that which is vast and which makes others vast. And that which expands and makes others expand, that which is infinitely expansive. So it's interesting proposal in the beginning of the Vedanta Sutra. It's like, okay, now it's time to inquire about that which is infinitely expanding. Like the implication is the inquiry will never end. Because the subject matter of your investigation is Brahman. So how much can we inquire? How much can we say anything about the infinite? So at one point Vedanta should say, Ikshati na shabda. About the infinite, there's nothing that can be said. Or we could say, we will try to say as much as we can while being humbly reminded that we are just touching one point of an infinite line. So we will never try to bring closure to the conversation. That will be the greatest tragedy of all. If I'll tell you today, okay, today we will have, I will give you the final word about Gaura-Gadadhara, and there's nothing else to be said about that. Probably all of you will start jumping from the mountain. We will make like a mass suicide movement here. Because those are very bad news, right? We are canceling the opportunity of perpetually engaging with this topic. Satatam kirtayantumam. Nitya yukta upashate. All these words with satatam and nitya kirtaniya sadahari. We want to be doing this forever. So I'm saying all this just to remind myself and humble myself. Whatever I may be able to say is just if I manage to do that by grace and fortune, touching one point of an infinite line. So today we want to share a few words, few thoughts about Gadadhara Paṇḍit's ontological position. Who is Gadadhara Paṇḍit in the core of his being? Yesterday we explored a little bit Gadadhara Paṇḍit's life in Navadvip, some of his divine plays with Mahaprabhu, before and after his conversion to bhakti, so to say, Mahaprabhu's conversion. In a few days we will be exploring what has happened in Jagannath Puri, at Tota Gopinath, during the Bhagavat sharings and so many other things. But for today I'd like to spend some time reflecting on who is Gadadhara Paṇḍit. And tomorrow, as an extension of that, we can reflect together about Gadadhara Paṇḍit's service disposition, which is all tied together. And somehow every day we are talking about everything, but we have some days officially talking about one thing, though it's all interconnected. So again, just to clarify, as we said the other day, we generally hear Mahaprabhu is Radha and Krishna combined. But we have tried to make it clear that that's in a certain way. Sri Chaitanya Devi is Radha Krishna combined in a dynamic way. which allows Radha to remain in Gaura-līlā as Gadadhara. This is famous line of this verse composed by Swarup Damodar Goswami that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami quotes in the Mangala Charan of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which ends saying, Radha Bhava Beauty Subalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. So it's a whole verse offering pranam to Mahaprabhu, but concludes with this line. Radha Krishna Pranay Vikritiralagani Shakti Rasmat, etc. We need another retreat in Anandadam for exploring that verse only. And the last line, it said, Mahaprabhu is Krishna, embraced by the halo of Radha, immersed in the inner mood of Radha. But it's Krishna. So, where is Radha? Of course, it's all over Mahaprabhu, in one sense. So in one sense, we could say, yeah, Mahaprabhu is Radha in a certain dynamic way. But at the same time, there is Radha herself in Gaura-līlā, allowing all this to happen, allowing Krishna to become a gopi, so to say, the gopi, as much as that can be possible. Again, we were talking just a moment ago. Let's inquire about Brahman. Let's inquire into the infinite. Okay, the project will be infinite unto itself. So this is the same for the infinite. The infinite Krishna wants to explore Radha's heart, and Radha is the infinite's heart, so it's the heart of the infinite. And I know this is difficult to match in our dualistic mind, even the fact that there is God and Goddess. Right? We tend to just give me one option, let's keep it simplistic, but we will say, no, reality is complex. So the absolute is one, is non-dual reality, Advaigyan Tattva, says the Bhagavatam. Tattva reality is Advaigyan. It's non-dual consciousness. Reality is one, undivided, non-fragmented, not fractured, not isolated, not scattered. It's unified, wholeness. But in the context, that wholeness, because it is whole, needs to express itself. The wholeness wants to celebrate its wholeness, and that manifests not in time, but from time without beginning. The Absolute expresses itself as a divine couple for the purpose of relationality and reciprocity in love. But Radha and Krishna, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes that point in Prema Samput. Radha and Krishna are one soul in two bodies. That's one way of putting it, interestingly. One soul in two bodies.
She has the quote.
Oh, okay. So that's fascinating. Theologically, at least for me, it's fascinating. And I know it can, in the beginning, be more like an intellectual fascination, but eventually, hopefully, it becomes more than a theoretical appreciation of this. Though I agree that sadhana bhakti in part entails many things, but one thing that sadhana bhakti entails is, at least to some degree, a theoretical appreciation of the reality, of the higher realities that go beyond sadhana bhakti. So I may be a sadhaka, I may not be in bhava bhakti, in prema bhakti, even in advanced stages of sadhana, and there's genuine space to be fascinated by certain prospects, and that still are to some degree an idea, not like a fully participatory reality in which I'm in, but it all begins with that fascination, that sense of wonder that invites for participation, drags me in that direction till I'm eventually a member of that realm. So here, while talking about Gadadhara Paṇḍit, we are talking about that. We are talking about this unique idea of the non-dual reality becoming two for the sake of celebration and loving reciprocity, and in the context of that, the male polarity of the Absolute, if you will, becomes completely obsessed with being empathic and experiencing what's going on in the heart of his better half. And the whole lila manifests to make that possible, no? The God experiencing the goddess. That's fascinating unto itself. We should sit with that. You can go to the valley of silence here, and you can just sit with that. And if you don't return in a week, it's okay. You're taking your time there. Nobody will get concerned. It deserves eternity of rumination, right? So we want to enter that land, the land of rumination, the nation when everyone will be ruminating, right? That's another way to put eternity, rumination. Everyone will be eternally. Yeah. So that's what we are trying to do here these days. And I'm trying to say all this so some of the things do not only remain like abstract, impossible ideas, complex, too detailed, and still it may be on that on some degree, but we can try to make them as relatable as possible as well. To Gaura-līlā, here we have the male god wanting to be empathic with the female goddess, to get in touch with your utmost feminine side, if you will. I don't want to reduce that to, okay, we have to integrate female and male dimensions, but there is some applicable lesson as well there. So Gadadhara Paṇḍit, as we share these days, is Sri Radha, none other than Sri Radha, allowing Krishna to get as closer as he can to the experience of what Sri Radha, what's the love that Sri Radha feels for him, what's the beauty that Sri Radha perceives in him, what's the joy that Sri Radha experiences while witnessing Krishna's beauty. And these are the three main internal reasons for Mahaprabhu to descend, basically. The three antakarana, in one sense we could say the internal causes. So Gadadhara Paṇḍit is Radha doing what in Christianity we'll call kenosis. Kenosis. Sometimes in Christian mystics will say the whole material creation is God's kenosis, which means God's emptying his heart, him, his, her, their heart, and the emptying of the heart becomes the cosmos. So the whole material creation is God's heart manifested, like a way of relating to creation in a sacred way. So in this way, Sri Radha as Gadadhara is engaging in a form of kenosis, emptying his, her heart to feel Krishna's heart, to feel Krishna's experience, to fulfill, through fulfilling the main purpose of the Leela, to allow Krishna, as we said the other day, one name for Krishna is Urukrama, the great adventurer. So Krishna is always up for adventure. So Sri Radha's Gadadhara adjusts accordingly in whatever mood is necessary. So we have talked about that a little bit these days. So some of you may wonder, okay, what's the need to talk about that again? Of course, to begin with, we can say we can talk about that again and again and again. These topics are ideally fully eternally relishable. The Bhagavatam say Navam Ruchiram. No? The Bhagavatam is saying at the end, these topics are always new, Navam Ruchi. There's always a new taste coming. Manaso Mahotsavam, to speak about this, is a festival for the mind. For us, that's the main part of any festival. If we say we have a festival at Anandadam, what will be the festival about? We'll be talking all day. But the festival. Yeah, that's a Mahotsav. Will there be cake? Yeah, there will be cake also. Someone will have a birthday and we'll have cake. That's what we did the other days. There will be some cake, okay. That's the festival. The cake is just pointing to the actual festival, right? Colorful flags and little festival. So the point is we can continue engaging this festival by going to, in this case, to exploring deeper Gadadhara's ontology. Who is Gadadhara Paṇḍit? Especially because there are a few statements in Shastra that seem to indicate something else. And that may be a little bit confusing for some of us as to who Gadadhara Paṇḍit is. And I've heard from some Gaudiya Vaishnavas a few conclusions that if they were painful to say the least. Strange. Okay. He's more generous, strange. It was heartbroken. Like someone, I don't need to go to details on it, but someone, I heard that Gadadhara Paṇḍit is Radha. No, she is Rukmini. Next question. And it's like, we need to do a Gadadhara Saptaha to counteract that. So here we are. So we'll share a few sections from some of the main biographies of Mahaprabhu and what is being said there about Gadadhara Pandit's identity. Many of those statements that confirm the identity of Gadadhara Pandit as Sri Radha, and a few others who seem to say that Gadadhara Pandit is someone else. But by proper understanding, we realize there's no contradiction. Going back to Vedanta Sutra, Tattu Samam Bhayat. You go to Shastra, there seems to be different statements pointing in different directions, but by proper context and reconciliation, you realize, no, there is a unified view here. So one of the earlier statements or even compositions about Gadadhara Pandit is a beautiful song, that another song, just in case here our local artists feel inspired. It's an ashtakam, and you can sing the ashtakams, of course, called Sri
Gadadhara Ashtakam.
Gadadhara Ashtakam. And this is composed by Swarup Damodar Goswami. One contemporary of Mahaprabhu, very intimate, as we were yesterday talking about a few Bahiranga Bhaktas, with all due honor and respect to Brihaspati and the Devas and our dearmost Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who composed this nice verse we shared some days ago about some who worship Mahaprabhu and have been worshipping Radha and Krishna for 100 lifetimes. Chaitanya Charanam Bhoja. I learned the verse, I kept my promise. Anyhow, so if we say Sarvabhauma is like more in the outer circle, who is an Antaranga Bhakta, who is an Antaranga Bhakta? Is one of those. So here we have an Antaranga, a mega hyper Antaranga Bhakta, composing an Ashtakam to another mega hyper Antaranga Bhakta. The Antaranga of all Antaranga Bhaktas, Gadadhara Pandit, the Antar, the inner, the person in relation to whom Mahaprabhu wants to explore his Antar. Mahaprabhu is exploring Gadadhar's Antar, inner heart, inner core, inner being. So Swarup Damodar is composing this Gadadhara Ashtakam. And in that Gadadhara Ashtakam, I won't go through the whole composition, it will be too much. Feel free to read it, study yourself, and we can sing it some of these days. If you want, we can get it. But in different parts, he's establishing the identity of Gadadhara Pandit. And again, you cannot get a more Antaranga-like vision and appreciation and confirmation than from someone like Swarup Damodar Goswami. So in the last verse, despite confirming who Gadadhara is throughout this ashtakam, but in the Falashruti, which is like the ashtakams generally have 8 verses. That's why they are called ashtakam. But you may have noticed that almost every ashtakam have 9 verses. So you may wonder why they're calling ashtakam. There's always 9. Guru ashtakam. Ashtakam, there's a 9th verse there, right? With every ashtakam. Because the tradition is that there's something called Falashruti at the end, which is an extra verse, like an appendix, going back to appendix.
A blessing.
A blessing. Falashruti means the fruit. What's the fruit of reciting the ashtakam will be stated in that verse. So in this case, there's one line in this Gadadhara ashtakam at the end in the Falashruti, where Swarup Damodar say, Labhita Radhika Gadadharangri Padma Sevaya. So basically it means by reciting this ashtakam properly, you labhita, you attain Angri Padma Sevaya, the service of the lotus feet of Radhika Gadadhara. So he puts the 2 names together, basically, like implying one is the other. Radha Gadadhara, defining Gadadhara Paṇḍit is Srimati Radhika Rani. So this one earliest, we could say earliest and most authorized view on who Gadadhara Paṇḍit is coming from Swarup Damodar Goswami, who is in Krishna-bhakti Lalita Saki. So again, they know each other, right? They know each other enough to recognize each other, even in another lila, so to say. Even not wearing sari as we were talking yesterday. No, they're dressing different, but it's like, okay, yeah, okay, here we are. Apart from this, apart from going back to earlier references from Gadadhara, Gadadhara, perhaps the second earliest reference to Gadadhara Paṇḍit being Radha, still we find the earliest references point that is the very first biography of Mahaprabhu. Which generally they are called hagiography. Sorry if I'm becoming too technical today. Hagiography is a biography of a religious person, of a religious figure, of a saintly person. In this case, we'll say of God as a devotee. This genre is called hagiography. So the first one, there are 7 main hagiographies of Mahaprabhu. A few written by Kavi Karnapur, Lochan Das, Vrindavan Das, of course Krishna Das, but the very first one that we refer to these days was written by Hanuman, Murari Gupta, who is Hanuman in Gaura-līlā. Again, Gaura-līlā is very accommodating. Hanuman finds his place there. He's totally fine with, right? I mean, Hanuman is pretty fanatic about Ram. No? In the good sense of the term, fanatic, paksha, biased. And he's in Gaura-līlā and he feels, oh, this is my place as well. To the point that he's writing the first authorized biography in Mahaprabhu. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Charit Mahakavya, that's the name of the biography. It's poetry, beautiful poetry, Sanskrit poetry. So there is one verse, there is 3:18:25, just giving references in case.
The book is here.
The book is here, in case you don't believe any of us, you go to the book and you just check the reference. So at one point, Murari Gupta is speaking about Gadadhara Paṇḍit, and he says Shakshat Radha Swarup. 3:18:25. Now he doesn't believe me.
No.
I'm joking. Sakshat Radha Swarup. I mean, it cannot get more direct than that. Sakshat means directly. No, directly. Radha Swarup. Gadadhara is directly Radha herself, the original form of Radha, the Radha's own self. So again, these are important statements because remember, these come from eyewitnesses of the Lila. Sometimes there is this whole realm of argumentation when a hagiography is written by people who are not eyewitnesses. So how true what actually that was? It was said by someone who heard it from someone who heard it from someone, but they were not there to begin with. So, and someone could make some of those arguments with some of the biographies of Mahaprabhu that were written by non-contemporaries. But in this case, we are talking about Swarup Damodar, Murari Gupta. They were there. So both of them are confirming Sri Radha is Gadadhara is Sri Radha. Some years later, we have another contemporary of Mahaprabhu, young. He was contemporary with Mahaprabhu when he was a baby, which is not small. Imagine you had darshan of Mahaprabhu as a baby. Still, that counts a lot, right? Not only had darshan, but they ended up being able as a baby to suck on Mahaprabhu's toe, no, a pacifier. I don't know how much Kavi Karnapur became pacified by sucking on Mahaprabhu's toe. Actually, he probably was a live wire. No, like that's not a pacifier. Anyhow, we're talking about Kavi Karnapur, famous poet, great personality. And he wrote 2 of these main 7 biographies on Mahaprabhu. Not only 1, but 2, interestingly. Like dramatic also depictions of his life. And among those, apart from those 2, he wrote another book that we referred to, I think, yesterday, called Gaura-līlā Deepika, which is kind of the who is who between Krishna-lila and Gaura-līlā. And so he's drawing these parallels between this personality in Krishna-lila manifested in Gaura-līlā as such. This here, this here. So in verse 147, we are sharing the references here today of Gaura-līlā Deepika. Kavi Karnapur says the following about Gadadhara Paṇḍit. He says, Sri Radha Prema Rupa Ya Pura Vrindavaneshwari. That's the first line only. Sa Sri Gadadharo Gaura-līlā Paṇḍitākyakaha. So basically means that very Radha, this very same Sri Radha, who is Prema Rupa, the person, the embodiment of divine love, the personification, Mahabhav Swarupini, Vrindavaneshwari, who previously was Vrindavaneshwari. I mean, previously, that means she lost the post, but he's talking about Krishna-lila, has appeared now as Sri Gadadhara Paṇḍit, Gaura-līlā, the beloved of Gaur. So the beloved of Krishna as appears the beloved of Gaur, in a particular mood corresponding to the Lila. So this is Kavi Karnapur's statement in Gaura-līlā Deepika. Again, Gadadhara Paṇḍit is Sri Radha. So far, so good. So far, we are just reinforcing our own beliefs. We don't want to do that too much, right? We want some Purva Paksha to make us think more critically. So let's bring now some of that. Some of apparently contradictory statements. And let's engage in this healthy exercise of thinking deeply about these things. Like Krishna-das Kaviraj Goswami will say, Siddhanta valiya chitte na kara alas. Yahaite Krishna lagi sudhrida manas. Krishna Chandra was talking about before, drida. Now here he's using the word sudhrida. How to become firmly fixed, established, determined. Siddhanta valiya chitte. Try to spend how you like to translate that lens.
Your whole consciousness should be like immersed in Siddhanta, in the understanding of eternal truth. And
so,
then?
Nakara alas. Because we know you guys. We know you. And Krishna-das Kaviraj knows me. And he says, don't be lazy. Because he says, try to immerse all your faculties in contemplating the eternal truths. And don't be lazy while doing that. Because one can do that on some level. Yeah, I'm doing it. And I'm reading one line of the Bhagavatam per weekend. Yeah, okay. Great. But Nakarala. There is, I mean, as you say, no, the moment you enter into that field, entering the field, remember that was the theme from day one, there's an endless ocean of contemplation and depth, and we will need to do lots of inner work also for reconciling things and understanding things in words that are coherent also, because we can also be very simplistic and lazy and cherry picky in how we approach Shastra, for example, and I just look for the things that confirm my own biases and assumptions and beliefs, and where something comes challenging or is different, that doesn't count. Let's focus here. The Siddhanta Valiya Chitta means, no, try to do the work of reconciling and contemplating and sitting with things that do not fully make sense yet, and sincerely trying to reach a new level of synthesis and understand this broader and deeper.
And what happens if you're not lazy?
Ihaite Krishna lage sudrida manas, which means
by doing this and even integrating contradictions, your mind will not be flickering. It will sudrida. It will be extremely strong. And this is maybe what Krishna is saying in Gita. He will be really your friend.
Really?
Your friend.
Mm,
He will, so this is now,
Bandurat Matmanas. Yeah.
now you have a very wonderful friend in your heart.
Thank you. So yeah, this whole verse about making the mind, how to befriend your mind. So
contradictions.
Contradictions. All that to prepare you for unsettledness, right? Let's go. We went through some of Mahaprabhu's biographies. We don't have time to go through each one of them, but let's go to what's sometimes considered the final word, if you will, quote unquote final word. There's no final word, but in this series of biographies, the one that we Gaudiya Vaishnava many times feel the more detailed theological exposure Mahaprabhu's reasons and inner being are is Chaitanya Charitamrita of Krishna-das Kaviraj Goswami, which is the last of these 7 biographies, which came, as we know, it's not written by a contemporary, of course, of Mahaprabhu, one generation after, basically, but not less authorized because of that. Krishna-das Kaviraj Goswami had the contact with so many, Raghunath Das Goswami and so many others. Who?
Krishna-das Kaviraj?
Kasturi Manjari. So what does he say about Gadadhara Paṇḍit? Because now comes the point, like, okay, Murari Gupta clearly saying this, sort of Dhamma clearly saying this, Kavi Karnapur, and we have all these biographies on Chaitanya Charitamrita is in one sense the one that clarifies the most about the inner reasons for so you will think, oh, then therefore it will be the clearest about who Gadadhara Paṇḍit is. Nope. At least not directly, not overtly, for whatever reasons we will see. But so I'll share a few sections in which Krishna-das Kaviraj Goswami speaks about Gadadhara Paṇḍit. Adi-lila, first chapter, almost at the beginning, verse 23. Again, there are hints. If you have the ears to hear, it's there. Again, Parokshabad has its place. Paroksham mama chapriyam. Krishna says in the Bhagavatam, famous line, Paroksham mama chapriyam. Parokshabada rishaya, paroksham mama chapriyam. He said, the rishis, the seers, truth, the tattvadarshins, they love parokshabad. They love to say things indirectly. It's boring when they say things like too much. I love you. I love you. That's boring, right? Yeah. So indirectly, when it seems that you are saying even the opposite, right? When you seem that you are actually insulting the person, but you are actually expressing your love in a way that is very hidden, very crooked, very in between the lines. So Paroksha Bhada Rishaya, says the Bhagavat. Krishna is saying the Bhagavatam. The rishis, the seers of truth, love indirect speech. Love to speak in ways that you are invited to read it between the lines. Apparently say something, but the real thing is hidden in between the lines. You have to do Siddhanta Baliya Chitta Nakaralas. You have to do your non-lazy work of excavation and exploration. And Krishna says, and why they love to speak like that? Why they love Paroksha Bhada to speak indirectly? It's not like their own whimsical, selfish, I like indirect speech, so I will do it. No, because it's Paroksha Mama Chapriya. Krishna, because I am very fond of indirect speech. I love all things crooked. So therefore, the rishis, the seers, love what I love, right? So we will find such statements in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Gadadhara Paṇḍit. So in their own way are very pleasurable. So Adi-lila, chapter 1, verse 23. Gadadhara Paṇḍitadi Prabhu Nija Shakti. That's one line about Gadadhara Paṇḍit. Who is Gadadhara Paṇḍit? Prabhu Nija Shakti. Prabhu is a name for Mahaprabhu. Nija Shakti. Nija means own. Prabhu's own Shakti. So, yeah, I mean, it's clear for those who have the eyes to see. He's not saying he's Radha. He's saying he's his own Shakti. And of course, you play out the implications of that and you end up at the feet of Sri Radha. Because Nija Shakti is another way of saying Swarup Shakti. Swarup means your own also, your own Shakti.
Even in the pranam of Panchatattva.
That was the next verse I was going to share. Such a spoiler. Now we're doing some Paroksha Bhadra. I'm expressing my love to Krishna Chandra. He's such a spoiler, this guy. Of course. So it says, Panchatattam Makham Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Mami. That verse 14, Adi-lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So there's a verse offering pranam to the whole Panchatattva. God, the quintuple God, so to say. The totality of reality, like encapsulated in these 5 figures. Bhagavan, Shaktimam, Swarup Shakti, Tatastha Shakti, and so on and so forth. We won't go into the details of Panchatattva now, but the section corresponding to Gadadhara is Bhakta Shakti. So Bhakta Shakti. Bhakta Shakti is a name for Gadadhara. It's not saying Gadadhara here. Here it's not pointing to anyone in particular. Panchatattva is like someone is Bhakta Rupa, someone is Bhakta Avatar, someone is Bhakta. But all our acharyas have explained clearly who is who. Who is Mahaprabhu, who is Nityananda Prabhu, who is Advaita, who is Srivas. Gadadhara is Bhakta Shakti. Bhakta Shakti is another way of saying Bhakti Shakti. Bhakti Shakti is another way of saying Sarup Shakti. Sarup Shakti is another way of saying Sri Radha. Sri Radha is another way of saying Sri Gadadhara. So Bhakta Shakti, Bhakti Shakti, Swarup Shakti, Sri Radha, Sri Gadadhara. So again, directly he's not saying literally like Gadadhara is Radha, like other biographers. Because in one sense we could say Krishna Kaviraj Goswami, of course, he was familiar with these previous biographies. So he didn't need to say it again. That could be an argument. It was clearly said by Swarup Damodar, Kavi Karnapur, Murari Gupta. And he's saying the same thing from another place, which complementary to everything else. Now, let's make it more complicated, because so far it's still easy, what I've said so far. Yeah, Sarup Shakti, Radha. Still we can be lazy. Not think too much about it. But Krishna says, na karalas, don't be lazy. So now let's make it a little bit more difficult. Let's go to another statement of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Adi-lila, 10th chapter, verse 15. He's saying, Badar Shaka Gadadhara Paṇḍit Goswami, Tenho Lakshmi Rupa Tara, Sama Kihanai. So he's describing the different branches of the tree of Mahaprabhu. Like that section. Mahaprabhu is compared like to the main tree, the trunk, and different branches come, different lineages and paramparas, etc. So a great branch is Gadadhara Paṇḍit. Krishna is saying, Lakshmi Rupa. He is a form of Lakshmi. No one is equal to him. Okay, now you solve the puzzle. I just want to throw you into trouble for a moment. So is he Radha? Is he Lakshmi? Why is he saying that he's Lakshmi? Stay there for a moment. I will make it a little bit more complicated. There's another book by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, recently found, relatively recently, called Gaura-gana Swarup Tattva Chandrika, which is kind of a parallel to Gaur-ganodesh Deepika by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And there, in verse 45, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, supporting, so to say, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, say, Lakshmi Devi, who in the past was situated on the chest of Sri Hari as a golden streak, Sri Vatsa, has now appeared as Sri Gadadhara, the great scholar. So, Siddhanta Baliya Chitta. Nakara las. Nakara las.
I mean, Lakshmi is included in Bhagavad.
Okay.
Sometimes some acharyas refer to the gopis as the Lakshmis of Vrindavan.
Lakshmi Sahasram. So I'm playing like I'm making it difficult for you, but it's not that difficult. You're quickly replying with Gaudiya common sense, which may not be common sense for anyone else, but it is for us. Because, yeah, so far from the above references, we have Gadadhara is Radha, Gadadhara is the Shakti of Bhagavan, and Niya Shakti, and Gadadhara is Lakshmi. But again, externally, that may seem like a conflict, but actually, there's no contradiction between any of that. Gadadhara is Radha, Radha is personification of Swarup Shakti, and Lakshmi Devi is Radha herself appearing in the particular mood suitable for Vaikuntha necessities. Though there are not that many necessities in Vaikuntha, actually. Some foot massage. And, I mean, not to downplay Vaikuntha, of course, but that's another conversation altogether, right? Like different forms of Bhagavan have different degrees of necessity in the context of love. The more love like attains its full-fledged expression, the more necessities come as a result of that, and the more we are invited to tend to those necessities. But for example, in Vaikuntha, overtly in general, Bhagavan Narayana is Atmaram, self-satisfied. Going back to Atmaramatva. So you are self-satisfied. There is not much things you need, right? Everyone comes to you. What do you need? I don't think I'm self-satisfied. It's like frustrating, right? After family, like so in Narayana, most devotees are worshipping Narayan, not so much out of a desperate need in the context of love and lila, but because he's God. So he deserves to be worshipped. He is God. God is to be worshipped. But most of the many devotees in Vaikuntha even are more situated in Shanta rasa, like contemplating the beatific vision of Narayana. There may even be in attaining Salokya Mukti, not Samipya Mukti. Salokya Mukti, which means they are residing in the same planet as Narayan. But that doesn't mean they are residing in close proximity to Narayan. But they are satisfied with that. No? As Narayan is very self-satisfied, the Vaikunthavas are self-satisfied. Narayan is maybe on the other side of the planet. They're happy enough to know we are on the same planet as Narayan. Again, not criticizing that. I mean, there's a place for that in eternity, so it's glorious in its own way. For them, for some, that's sufficient. No? But when we go from Vaikuntha to Braj and all the implications there, Bhaktivinoda Thakur will say Krishna still is Atmaram. Like interestingly, the word Atmaram appears in the Rasa-līlā in a few ways, and one of those is when the gopis are asking Krishna. When Krishna disappears from Rasa-līlā and returns, and basically the gopis are asking, there are different types of lovers. Where do you fit in all that? Basically, they are asking why you disappeared, and Krishna starts to answer. They're this person, those who reciprocate when they are served, those who, even when they are loved, they do not reciprocate, the ungrateful ones. They are the Atmarams, who are self-satisfied. And he goes through different categories, and at the end he said, but I'm not any of them. And he included the Atmarams in that list, right? They are the Atmarams, the self-satisfied people. And at the end he said, I do not identify with any of them. Like implying, I'm not an Atmaram. I mean, he's Atmaram on one level.
Not only.
But not only. In the context of love, a new necessity comes. Bhaktivinoda Thakur will use the word pararam, which means from being self-satisfied, Krishna becomes sacredly dissatisfied and longs for union, like the beginning of the Rasa-līlā. No? Krishna is satisfied, but he saw the moonlight, autumn season, and his heart desired to engage in loving affairs with the gopis. So there's sacred neediness in the otherwise self-satisfied absolute. And I don't know how I ended up saying this in connection to what we were talking. Lakshmi, thank you. All this to say, when Bhagavan manifests as Narayan, Sri Radha manifests as Lakshmi, serving accordingly. And again, there are not that many needs of service. We generally hear Pada Sevanam from Lakshmi Devi, because again, this is a Leela where overtly God is self-satisfied, and everyone is self-satisfied, and peace prevails, and it's called Vaikuntha, no anxiety. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And it's again, there's place for that in eternity. Be careful of becoming racists, no? Racists in the context of rasa. That's inferior. It's beautiful in its own way.
It's just also in the divine, there is no duality. Srinada Janakinadi Chabeda Paramatmani. This is a famous verse from Hanuman. I mean, I know, oh my Ram, between you and between Narayan, Chabeda Paramatmani, there is never any difference. But Tadapi Mama Sarvasam Rama Kamalojana. But my all and everything is the lotus-eyed Ram. But he knows there is no difference. So also between Shrimati Radhika and Lakshmi, there cannot be any bheda. It's always the same person.
Yeah, ontologically they're the same one.
From the rasa point of view, there is some difference, but sometimes even but in the gopis, they call him Vishnu. Because Vishnu is the all-pervading one.
In the Falashruti of Rasalila, Vikriditam Brajavadu Viridam cha Vishnu.
So, and in separation, they see him everywhere. So you are our Vishnu. So you're like all-pervading. So, from the absolute point of view, there is no difference.
Yeah.
But from the rasa point of view, there is a difference. But this Aishwarya name can also be...
Yeah. Oh, you all gopis are my Lakshmis, my goddess of fortune. I feel so fortunate by your association. And Krishna can feel genuinely from that place, right? Yeah. So Aishwarya can be natural. Aishwarya names can be invoked in the context of Madhurya, brush.
Vishwanath stressed upon that Lakshmi, who was the Srivatsa sign on his chest, now has appeared as Gadadhara. And how can we reconcile this? Because it is always, I never heard that connection between this Srivatsa girl, or what is it?
Yeah.
And Radha, but it is always only Lakshmi who is on the right.
Oh no, I there are many Vaishnavas who mentioned how, because it's a golden. Yeah.
Maybe very.
And it's on his, close to his heart, basically. Yes. So it's basically.
Comes out of his heart grows a golden. It is.
Yeah. So yeah, Lakshmi and Radha are, as also like when Venkata was talking with Mahaprabhu in South India, Mahaprabhu was trying like to poke Venkata about, but Lakshmi, she wanted to leave Narayan and join Krishna and Rasa-līlā. Why? If Narayan is the all in all, why? He's in South India, right? In these 4 months of Chaturmasa that you refer. So he was kind of lovingly joking, like, oh, Lakshmi want to attain Krishna. She left she who is known as the most chaste lady, never leaving her husband, left Narayan, wanted to enter the Rasa-līlā, and she couldn't enter on top of that. What's going on there? And of course, Venkatavata made a similar point there. Lakshmi was not unchaste, because in pursuing Krishna, she's just going to Narayan in another form, basically. In Siddhanta, there is abhed, there's non-difference. They're the same. Ontologically, they're the same. From the point of view of rasa, as you say, tattva vichar is one thing, rasa vichar is another thing. Now in tattva, they are ontologically the same. From the point of view of rasa, there may be some difference, but even in that context, all these names, Aishvaric names, can all be invoked in the context of increasing the intimacy. So anyhow, the whole point here is that depending on the mood, and this is a very beautiful way to do it. Like you can appreciate, you can read about Lakshmi and find and appreciate, wow, how beautiful Radha is, how willing she is to adjust her service disposition to honor each one of these leelas. No, and it can be a nudipan in the context of appreciating. No, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur will say, if you go to a mosque or to a church, you can really get nourishment, saying, wow, how interestingly they are worshiping my Gaura-Gadadhara here, right? In the form of a Trinity or in the form of this. Wow, how interestingly they. You can, in a healthy bias way, you can make that centered around your Istadev, not to diminish their mood, but how interesting and beautiful they're approaching. So in the same way you read about Lakshmi, oh, how beautiful Gadadhara is adjusting in Vaikuntha to honor his pranat's needs in that particular place, and you can make it all about your main bias in the context of service. It's not a selfish thing, right? Also, some other point that is made, and I'd like to share a few more thoughts. We have still a few more controversial statements in this regard. But another way of explaining it will be Gadadhara is Lakshmi in the sense that sometimes this imaginary has been given when Radha's Gadadhara is giving her heart to Mahaprabhu. Radha becomes, quote unquote, diminished by giving her heart to Mahaprabhu, quote unquote, don't kill me. So a lesser version of Radha remains, like Lakshmi, lesser, quote unquote. At the same time, of course, in that diminishment of Radha's Gadadhara giving her heart, her glory is shining even more profoundly about her sacrifice and willingness to give herself. But Srila Siddhar Maharaj sometimes have given that type of explanation. Like Radha is giving her whole self to Mahaprabhu, so she ends up being, again, with many quotation marks, a lesser version. But actually, if you properly understand, the lesser version is even higher. So there's no lesser version at the end of the day, because you appreciate the dedication of the emptying of that heart in service. We will be talking more about that tomorrow. But going back to Krishna-das Kaviraj Goswami and what he says so far about Gadadhara Paṇḍit, again, few statements indirectly pointing Gadadhara is Swarup Shakti, Prabhu's own Shakti, but then Lakshmi, and someone may wonder why he didn't say it straight, like other biographies, why he didn't say he's Radha. It's the final culminating biography of Mahaprabhu. Why not everything is like as exposed as he did with Mahaprabhu's own inner reasons for coming, right? And of course, we may not know for sure. I don't like to. This is the reason why. There is a dose of mystery. But one reason could be in Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you study Chaitanya Charitamrita, you see that Krishna-das Kaviraj Goswami has taken up a task that is very consuming, very intense, which is complex theological subject of explaining Mahaprabhu as Krishna, tasting Radha Bhav. That's complicated in itself, right? Let's speak about Krishna being God, forgetting that he's God. I mean, people need some time to process that. And then on top of that, let's talk about Mahaprabhu and explain all that in detail. So if on top of that, he may have said, and by the way, Mahaprabhu is Radha Krishna combined, but not in every sense. We have also Gadadhara. That may have been too much to say in one same focus. But he was making the point in his own way all over. And that was being made clear in other biographies as well. So That's one way to explain it. Like he tried to labor very hard to make the case for Mahaprabhu being Radha and Krishna combined in a certain way, to explain the background of that unity, and leaving his treatment of Gadadhara Paṇḍit, I don't know, limited at best. And we would say leaving some seva for future generations as well. That's how many times it happens. And many, even Krishna-das Kaviraj Goswami, he writes in that way regarding Vrindavan Das Thakur. Oh, he didn't complete the Leelas, the ante-Leela of Mahaprabhu. He left some seva for us. Thank you. He's doing the same thing, and so on. That's how parampara works.
For Vyasadeva in the next Yuga cycle.
And we have many in our Bhaktivinoda Parivar, for example, we have many personalities like Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself, Srila Siddhar Maharaj. They beautifully shed light on the identity of Gadadhara Paṇḍit and his ontology. So, and we are here trying to honor those footsteps, so to say. And again, Krishna-das Kaviraj Goswami, his Mangala Charan quotes Swarup Damodar, Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvaltana. So he left the door open. Mahaprabhu is Krishna tasting Radha Bhav. So he's leaving, okay, so who is Gadadhara? And he said a few things that if we played properly enough, it should be clear. Let's conclude with one more point before I have half of the audience falling asleep. I'm losing some of you. I'm losing some of you. Which is the notion of Gadadhara being Rukmini. That's another few statements. And who is Rukmini in Gaura-līlā in connection to Vrindavan? Chandravali. Yeah. And Radha in Gaura-līlā is Satyabhama. So there's another interesting conversation here. I wanted to make it very complicated for you in the morning. So as we know, Radha in Vrindavan has more of a Bhamya Bhav, left-wing contrariness, unsubmissiveness for the pleasure of Krishna. It's all in seva, right? It's all anukul. It's not her own selfish tantrum, right? She knows how that gives pleasure to Krishna. She knows where to stop that mood, to enter into whatever mood is necessary to complement. Yeah. They're all, if she forgets for some reason, it's like, okay, it's too much. It's time to shift. Anyhow, someone knows. So the Leela goes on successfully. So Radha has that mood, and Chandravali has a more Dakshina Bhav, which is more like a submissive mood. Now, when Krishna goes to Dwarka, it's a different mood, and therefore the roles switch in this case. So the Leela is not so intimate as it's in Vrindavan. So the overt, how we will say in English, the overt, how you say that in German? I'm joking, I didn't say it. A mood. Let's keep the word mood. It's okay. It's the whole mood in Dwarka is not as intimate, so it creates it's another dynamic. So the most prominent role among the queens of Krishna in Dwarka is the submissive one, Rukmini, right? Satyabhama is Radha, and she's not that submissive. She's a little bit more like fiery. But the main queen is Rukmini in Dwarka, because the whole tenor, that was the word. In Dwarka, it's more distant than in Vrindavan. So the prominence of the roles is shifting.
There's more Aishwarya.
Exactly. So anyhow, all this to say.
So, but then if Rukmini is number one, then Radharani is number two, or then there's no further.
I mean, there are 16,108. Don't ask me to go through all the list, please. Yeah. But these are the top two. Let's keep it at the top two. There's a top 8. She will be now.
Chandra is number 2.
If we want to use that type of way of thinking, yeah, it's okay. And again, it's all in seva, right? Because sometimes we may get, Chandraval is the enemy of Radha, and actually Chandraval is an expansion of Radha, no? To fill in the necessary moods to complement the totality of what needs to be expressed and so on, right? Though in Sri Radha, all the moods are in herself, but different gopis expand from her and take a particular mood when that's necessary as well. So anyhow, Gadadhara, going back to Gadadhara, Gadadhara is said to be Rukmini, no? Who is Chandravali in Gaura-līlā, and who is characterized by this submissiveness. So again, one could say in a more general way, Gadadhara is Rukmini, who is Chandravali. Well, Chandravali is an expansion of Radha. So therefore, Gadadhara is Radha, and Chandravali is Radha in the sense that it's an expansion of Radha, and Gadadhara is Rukmini. Case closed. That's one way to answer in a general way. But again, going back to a similar dynamics through with the example of Lakshmi, when Mahaprabhu is entering Radha Bhav internally more and more, he's entering into this Bhamya Bhav of Sri Radha mostly. Gadadhara enters more and more into Dakshin Bhav to keep the equation balanced and to allow Krishna as Mahaprabhu to fully relish the Bhamyatva, the unsubmissiveness, and other qualities of Sri Radha. So Gadadhara Paṇḍit is entering more Dakshina Bhav, which is related to Rukmini. And that's also one of the bhavas of Radha herself. Of course, not that Radha doesn't have, as we were talking the other day, when we were saying Radha has no mood of her own, that doesn't mean that she has no mood. No, I mean, she's not limited to one particular mood. She has all the moods, but she's love personified, so willing to embrace whatever mood is required at any given moment. There is some depiction of 365, 360?
16.
Okay. Naikas or heroine types. And each one having a particular, and the same with Nayakas or heroes. So Krishna basically is the perfect hero, Radha is the perfect heroine, being able to include all of those moods. So when we are speaking about the predominance of one mood or other, we are not excluding anything. Everything is included there. So Sri Radha is not limited by one particular bhav, which again is a big lesson for us, also how that relates to us. Sri Radha has all the bhavs at her disposition, but she embraces whichever mood is anukul or favorable at any given moment. So how I'm invited to do the same in my own life. Again, not to make a full parallel between me and Radha, but still, she's the personification of bhakti and love. So how that's speaking to me, how I'm willing to, if I want to engage in the service of such a personality, how I am willing to adjust to whatever mood is required from me at any given moment in terms of service necessity. That's some silent homework for each one of us to contemplate. I'm not giving official homeworks this time or prompts or anything, but hopefully you are taking them by yourself. Because as we were saying, Sri Radha is maybe characterized with Bhamya Bhav, this contrariness and submissiveness. When that gets too much, she enters Dakshina Bhav. No, she knows when to enter, or she has good company that will remind her when it's time for that to be the case. But all for the pleasure of the beloved. So in the same way, when Gaur Krishna is relishing the Bhamya Bhav of Sri Radha, Gadadhara is entering into the Dakshin Bhav to allow the relishment experience of Mahaprabhu. And this is why, another way of explaining why Gadadhara is compared to Rukmini. Like we were saying the other day, when Rukmini is, this Lila that narrating the Bhagavatam, and Rukmini is serving Krishna, and Krishna is telling Rukmini, you know what? I've been thinking about it, and I think, I mean, it's my contemporary paraphrasing of that. I think you should look for some other guy in your life. I don't think I'm good enough. I'm analyzing my own qualities and failures, and I think you are too good for me. No? And Krishna is wanting to extract some Bhamya Bhav from Rukmini.
And he brings a whole list of his own mistakes.
Exactly. I did this and I did that, and undeniable ones. And Rukmini, what's going on here? And she faints eventually, right? She doesn't enter Bhamya Bhav. She doesn't become contrary. She doesn't understand even the poking attempts of Krishna. It's too much for her. Similarly, there are some moments in the Gaura-līlā where Gadadhara exhibits that mode. For example, and we will mention that maybe when we talk about Gadadhara in Puri, with this Lila with Balabhata. That sounds says Balabhacharya. I have my difference of opinion there. You also?
Yeah, he's not Vallabhacharya.
Okay. We'll talk more about that in a few days. But there is one Balav, let's put it that way, who was like wanted to share he wrote commentary on the names of Krishna on the Bhat, and it's described as someone very pushy. Like if I come and I say, hey guys, I wrote commentary on the Bhat and I wrote commentary on this. You want to read it? You want to read it? You should read it. Come on, read it. Now let's so all Mahaprabhu and his associates were like, okay, this guy is a little bit too much. And he's doing that among Mahaprabhu and his associates, right? So not about anyone. And everyone was kind of like, no. And Balava was feeling, as Chaitanya Charitamrita will say, as a duck among swans, right? Like out of place. But it is said that at that point, Gadadhara kind of entertained him, like took some time in a more submissive way. He didn't put like too many boundaries. So that's it. That will be an example of this type of submissiveness. We'll explore more about that Lila in a few days. Let me conclude with a few words from Srila Siddhar Maharaj about Gadadhar's position. We have 2 more minutes? Okay. Just a final reflection. Because Srila Siddhar Maharaj has spoken beautifully about Gadadhara Paṇḍit, and he has written a few compositions, but my point is whatever we know written was him speaking, and someone else recorded and then put it down. So it on itself, it's even more wonderful to say that was just said on the spot without thinking about it, without writing. Yeah. So he's saying in this way, we may contemplate the external aspect of Gadadhara Paṇḍit. His bhav has been taken from him, leaving him emptied. Again, he will use some expression that may sound negative, but it's all poetic expression to contrast and his dedication. Rukmini represents the Dakshin disposition, not the Vama. The Vama nature is somewhat aggressive, and one who possesses it quarrels with her beloved. The Dakshin nature, by contrast, tolerates whatever comes, adopting only a defensive posture. This is Dakshina. This is Rukmini's disposition. Thus, when Mahaprabhu plunders the spirit of Radharani present within Gadadhara, including her rebellious Vama nature, what remains is comparable to Rukmini, a passive witness without any power to assert himself, merely an observer. Again, it sounds like insulting, but it's not from that place. An observer who tolerates everything, and now for me comes the main part, a deeply painful condition that evokes everyone's compassion and sympathy. That evokes everyone's compassion and sympathy. So in other words, Srila Maharaj is calling us to service, calling us to identify with the need, not only with the need that Mahaprabhu has and Gadadhara is fulfilling, but now with the need that Gadadhara is having, and for us to show up in service to that. Because again, Sri Radha's Gadadhara is very empathic with Krishna and Gaur Krishna's plight, but here Srila Siddhar Maharaj is inviting us to be empathic with Radha Gadadhar's own needs and service necessity, because Krishna's necessity becomes Radha's necessity. Whatever Krishna needs becomes her necessity. Whatever Gaur Krishna needs becomes Gadadhar's necessity. And we're invited to identify with that. Not only with the service necessity present in the heart of Mahaprabhu, with the service necessity present in Gadadhara. Now we'll be talking more about that in a few days, but Mahaprabhu is relishing Radha Bhav. So for those who have some affinity toward the notion of Radha Dasyam, Gaura-līlā offers a double offer, two by the price of one. Because in Gaura-līlā, you're engaging in Radha Dasyam by tending to Mahaprabhu's relishing of Radha Bhav, but you are also engaging in Radha Dasyam by serving Radha herself as Gadadhara Paṇḍit in her moment, his moment of need. There's a double Radha Dasyam taking place there. I'm leaving just that as an appetizer for what we'll be sharing in a few days. But tomorrow we will continue to explore more in detail what's this service, this position in the heart of Gadadhara Paṇḍit. What's the glory of that giving of himself in self-forgetfulness and divine love for the pleasure of Mahaprabhu. But today there's any related questions to the topic, something you would like to share? If not, we'll put the sharing to rest.
No.
No rest.
Not the verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that said Gadadhara is the combined incarnation of like Sri Radha and Lalita or something like that. I don't know the number, but vaguely remember there's a verse like that.
I don't recall in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but I think what you are mentioning appears in another verse. I think that's Gaura Desha Deepika as well. Because Kavi Karnapur sometimes gives more than one identity for each associate, which can be interestingly complicated. But again, it could be explained in similar ways like we were mentioning. But yeah, that's I don't think that's Chaitanya Charitamrita if my memory is not failing, but it's Gaura Desha Deepika. So thank you for bringing that because that was not included today.
No, just a question.
Yeah.
I have some difficulties with this phrase of Srila Sridhar Maharaj.
I know.
At the end, with the plundering of the heart, and then suddenly there's less. Because we always say Om Purnamada Purnamidam. You can take unlimited away, and still there is unlimited there.
Yeah.
So how it's not less.
Yeah.
I can understand that mood. Okay, for the service necessity, she hides a little back. But for me, it would exclude that even Srimati Radhika has unfulfilled desires in Braj-līlā, that she experiences also as Gadadhara, that was not even possible in Vrindavan. So, and the explosion of all the unfulfilled desires of Lalita,
even the manjaris,
of all the gopis, of all the associates, this explosion makes Gaura-līlā. So then I don't see just this Vamyata, and especially with this plundering, and then something is empty out of Om Purnamada Purnamidam. Because even if a guru is giving so much, or you give so much mercy, then we have to experience that we don't feel empty, but we feel inspired.
Yeah, you will have even more than before.
Exactly. So maybe you can
yeah
on that.
We already had this discussion with not only with Krishna Chandraji, but also with a few other friends about, again, it's important that we understand this word from Srila Maharaj as from a poetic place and trying to make a point, but not like a statement of Tattva and Siddhanta. Now Gadadhara became less, is more empty. But as an indirect way, going back to Parokshabad, no? It seems we are saying it's plundered and it has less and it has emptied and it's like this, and it's like, wow. No? But indirectly shedding light about the willingness to give everything that she has. But as you say, paradoxically, the more is being given, the more there is to be given. And that's why, again, we have a Nitya Navadvip. Yeah. And the same thing with Krishna trying to pay back the debt. The more he's trying to pay back, the more indebted he is. So different versions of Om Purnam Ada. But it's from that place. And actually tomorrow I had in mind one section from Srila Siddhar Maharaj when he speaks even stronger than this. In the beginning, about Gadadhar's emptiness and all that, but then he comes the but that emptiness actually means this, and this means this, and he ends up like glorifying the fullness of her service disposition, and by properly being understood, there is no emptiness at all, there's no plundering at all, but it's again the Om Purnam keeps becoming Purnam, Purnatara, Purnatama, Purnatama, Tama, and so on and so forth. Sorry? Yeah. You have to use language of paradox and end up saying the fullness of emptiness. It's like, what? Yeah. And you're willing to empty, to give everything you have to for the beloved. And then when you actually do that, you realize, oh, no, it's fuller than before. Okay, again. Oh, now it's fuller than before. But it's not that they are calculated. It's not that rather it's okay, I will give everything so I have more after. Good business strategy. There's no calculation, but that's how it happens, right? And it should be also, again, a lesson for ourselves in our life, that sometimes we fear giving too much because we are too much in the business market calculating, like, oh, if I give this and having this goptritvi varanam, this unconditional trust that by giving myself fully, I will not become less.
It's like the presence in separation. Together in separation.
Yeah, it's all paradoxical. At one point, that's no wonder our metaphysics are called achintya veda veda tattva. Achintya, one word for achintya is paradoxical. The whole thing is paradoxical. That first word qualifies everything that we are all about. It's about paradox. So we need to develop a way of thinking paradoxically about things, because if we go with the black and white thinking, sorry, you are left there at the doorway. Jai Vijay will say, no, you cannot enter. To Vaikuntha, to speak. Paradox is the ticket. So yeah.
Just maybe one thing more.
He's still not satisfied with it.
No. I just as a expansion, this verse, which was also painting in my heart.
Which verse?
In Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Gadadhara is compared to Rukmini. So I went with this verse to many persons and sadhus, and Vinod Baba, he told me something quite interesting. He said, "Oh, some things cannot be expressed." Shukadeva Goswami is like not able to express in the Gaura-līlā, so he's doing different moods of Srimati Radhika's heart by explaining Dvaraka-līlā, because it's a little paradoxical also. A Braj Bhakta, one of the main thing of a Raganuga Bhakta is you should not meditate on Dvaraka. Also, yes. Yeah. And so, but there's more chapters about Dvaraka than about Vrindavan. But you should not meditate on Dvaraka. So then it's because Shukadeva Goswami explains the moods of Radhika's heart by speaking externally on something else, but actually it's
Parokshabhat again.
Yes. And then Vinod Baba, he said, actually, when this verse about Rukmini, it's mentioned because Rukmini is in the Mahishi Gita, she's laying on a bed and next to Krishna. This is not meeting in separation, this is separation in meeting. Prema Vaichitya. What you said. So Rukmini is laying directly next to Krishna, but so much love and she maybe can smell him, and smelling is like blocking all the other things that she feels separation. And then the ocean is going back and forth. And Rukmini there's beautiful verses there. She speaks to the ocean and says, "Oh, dear ocean, I think you cannot sleep in the night like me. You're also turning back and forth whole night like me. Are you also separated from your beloved?" But Krishna is laying on the bed.
Mm-hmm.
So that Vinod Baba said this verse about Rukmini is mentioning that prema vaicitya mood that Gadadhara is experiencing while not be able sometimes even being together with Mahaprabhu, but so much love is there that not getting enough. Because this is one of the desires Radhika had. As Radhika, Krishna goes to the forest with the cowboys. Yeah. Krishna is with Mother Yashoda, and I want to be together like 24/7. And now I have Kshetra Sannyas and I'm together, but sometimes even being together, feeling separation from Mahaprabhu. And then this verse is applying. This is just like an explanation, a hint Vinod Baba gave.
Vinod Baba ki jai. Thank you.
This is less painful for my heart.
Try the whole book.
No, it's just an interpretation.
But this book that you were now referring to by sorting this wonderful scenery between Rukmini and Krishna, the mood that she is expressing there, taking the ocean as a
companion.
Companion of love. It is not that this mood is specifically in Rukmini, it's a typical mood in Sri Radha also.
Yes.
It doesn't need Rukmini as a reference for this. Yes, that Gadadhara is compared to, or that expression is that Gadadhara is Rukmini because of this verse, because there are many scenes in which Sri Radha experiences exactly this mood.
Yes.
As herself.
Yes, it's true, but in the Bhagavatam, the only place where Prema Vaicitya is described is at that moment.
With Rukmini.
Yes. This is like Shukadev Goswami is so absorbed, he's going more and more in. So he's like unable to speak more directly about Srimati Radhika. He's on the verge to fall unconscious. So that's why he has to speak externally on something else, meaning the moods of Radhika, and just this hint. Oh, this is the Rukmini that when Chaitanya Charitamrita is there, this is the bath of.
And the original one who tastes this bath must be Sri Radha.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we know Baba's quoting the verse. It was the Srimad Bhagavatam verse. It was not an extra poetry or something.
No, it's the Bhagavatam.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj, to bring us pain and confusion and also security about that many people.
There's relief now?
Yeah,
to some degree. Never
really
fully.
Very beautiful.
Jagannathi Prabhu was raising his hand. We have time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a practical question for a conditioned soul. Because you
can chop wood in 15 minutes over there. Yeah, we have the wood ready.
You were talking about
Indira!
Yeah.
My God! Nog een paar minuten, ga met zitten dan. This is Indira, this is Shweshta from Harinamananda. Hariba! Wat ziet dat?
it's hard. And because the more we give, the more we are open to receive. And
I mean, we were not saying that like do it that in that way so you receive more. No, it's not.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Okay.
Just in case, clarify.
But this would be also used as a rather toxic argument if there is a bhakta in the temple and the authority tells him, so just give everything, give your sleep for 2 hours a day and eat less and work more and don't care about your needs. And then this person thinks, so I will give everything, but then nothing comes, or not that what is expected. So what would you say about that?
And that I wrote a whole book called Radical Personalism and replied to that. And you read it, right?
Yes.
So you know my reply to that. Now, of course, thank you for the question. And just to clarify, in case some of the present or the ones who will watch this video, we are not at any moment we are meaning. I mean, we are making a statement, a principle, no? Like when one gives oneself genuinely in a healthy, sustainable way in love, naturally you will experience this refilling, but it has to be done in ways that are sustainable to our adhikar and wherever we are standing. We cannot just like, oh, Raghunath Das Goswami is giving himself in such a way and he's doing this and that. So I mean, you can be enamored by the example for the right reasons, but also romanticize that and think, okay, let's go there. And after 2 days, you are in the hospital, or you need a psychiatrist or something. So you may not be able to sleep 2 hours per day when you remember to sleep, like they say the Goswamis will do. No? So each one has to be swedikari janishta saguna parikirtita, says the Bhagavatam. Real virtue is to assess your adhikar, to acknowledge where you are standing, what you can do, what you cannot do, to be honest about that, and from there trying to, yeah, of course, transcend and grow and expand and give a little bit more gradually. Leave the comfort zone, but not making like a quantum leap. As I like to say, there's a circle that is a comfort zone, there's a bigger circle that is a learning zone, and there's a bigger circle that is a panic zone. So if you go way beyond comfort, it may be panic. And so each one has to be responsible enough for their own thermometer to see, okay, what's healthy for me to do in a way that is not complacent and not lazy, nakara alas, but not also to the extreme that I'm over pushing myself to the point of burnout or even abuse to others or abuse to my own mental, physical health, emotional health. So there has to be a balance. And those instructions they're all over as preliminary at the beginning of the Gita and this and that before we speak about full surrender and what to speak of bhakti rasa and these details. First of all, be a wholesome human being so you can offer that wholeness in seva. No, you don't want to offer like a completely broken, dysfunctional vessel as an offering. Okay? Radha Krishna wants to see us happy and sustainable. I like always to say, we are Vaishnavas, or we are aspiring. Vaishnava, as Krishna Chandra say, one name for Bhagavan is Vishnu. Gopis use Vishnu for Krishna as well. And Vishnu in a more, not so in the Rasa-līlā, but Vishnu is the one who maintains, right? Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Vishnu is the god of sustainability. So if we are Vaishnavas, I mean the ones who worship the god of sustainability, we have to properly represent our Ishtadev by leading a sustainable life, by having our bhakti project sustainable. So, yeah. Thank you for the question. Okay, we can put to rest the sharing, and we'll meet again in the evening for questions. Any other questions or sharings you may have. Shri Gaura-Gadadhara ki jai. Shri Harinam Prabhu ki jai. Satsanga ki jai. Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Bol.